Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm playing a tournament hosted by Grandmaster Ben Finegold in an attempt to play him and possibly win. GM Finegold's YouTube and Twitch will be the first links in the description. The tournament is 6 rounds, time control 5-0. Let's get started with round number 1. Alright, game number 1. Let's go ahead and play d4. Oops, there we go. Cool, we're playing a 1300 rated player, which no shame, but it should be a relatively straightforward win. We get a Grunfeld, which is usually quite comfortable to play with. When you're playing the London, you have that easy knight to e5 idea since d6 wasn't played to stop that idea. So we have ideas of knight to e5, queen to f3. We'll play c3 here to bolster our center from this pawn. But we still have this idea, queen to f3, h4, and just kind of push on the king side. All right, knight to c6. We'll go ahead and play knight to e5. We get e6. Let's go ahead and play queen to f3. We're kind of telegraphing our idea very clearly here. We're going to long castle, and we're going to go ahead and push h4, g4, h5, etc. Our opponent played e6, which is kind of interesting. That stops the bishop from stopping g4. We get knight to h5. I could retreat the bishop, but then takes, and I lose the e5 pawn after this exchange. So let's play a little bit of an interesting move. Let's play g3 with the idea that if my opponent captures, I can take back, and this knight is actually still bolstered by these two pawns, even though these two pawns would be doubled. Okay, we get queen to b6, which kind of just invites our previous idea of castling long. It's still a little bit scary because we castle onto that semi-open file. There could be ideas in the future of like queen to a5, b5, b4, but our opponent elects to capture in the center. We'll take back with the bishop, hoping to remove this bishop from defending all of these dark squares. Maybe we can play like h4, g4, h5. Okay, we get bishop to d7. I'll go ahead and boot the knight with g4. Knight obviously can't retreat because we just win the knight. So I'm assuming my opponent will take. Okay, my opponent does take. I have the option to just take. If I take on e5, there's knight back to g7, h4, h5 should be a pretty straightforward attack. Although this looks really interesting as well, kind of just ignoring the bishop. Bishop moves back, we take, our opponent takes, and frankly that just doesn't look quite as appealing. We'd rather have that knight on g7, where it kind of awkwardly sits there and doesn't actually defend anything. Nice, we'll play h4, start that attack. Rook to c8, rightfully lining up the rook with the king, but since b5, b4 isn't currently available, I'll just continue with my plan. Queen to a5 threatens the pawn and opens the floodgates for my opponent's pawns. I'm going to take here first, with the idea of queen to h3 and then taking on h7. Nice, opponent allows the idea. Ooh, king to f7, king is on the run. I will go ahead and chase the king down. Maybe we can win this knight, bring the rook to the 7th rank. Rook to g8. If we take, king moves over, queen f6, king moves back. I assume the bishop can come in at that point. Nice, let's give that check. And we do get checkmate. Nice, okay. Very elegant mate to win game number 1. Clean, no blunders. Let's go ahead and move on to round number 2. All right, round number 2, we get a 1500 rated opponent, so a little bit stronger than game number 1. We get the black pieces. b3, wow, I have not seen that opening in a good while, but I'm still going to play the same thing. c6, d5, sure, grab the center, and if my opponent makes no effort to grab the center, then I'll just take as much as I can get. I'll get a little bit greedy with putting as many pieces in the center as I can. Okay, I will capture the knight and double one of my opponent's pawns. Some players are actually very comfortable playing this with e4 to follow, but others just play it because they know it by the book and aren't really sure how to actually follow it up. Let's play bishop to d6 here. Okay, we do get e4, threatening e5. We'll go ahead and stop it with the knight. Okay, queen to e2 reinforces that e5 push. We could play bishop to f4 here. It's very hard to kick that bishop out. If e5, knight to h5, maybe bishop back, knight to f4. It's a little bit of a forced maneuver, but it could work. So let's play bishop to f4 here. Obviously, my opponent's idea is to castle long, line up the rooks on this semi-open file, and target my king as soon as I castle. So I have to be aware of that idea. Nice, we do get that long castle. Let's play queen to a5, bother this a2 pawn just a little bit. King comes over and defends it, very nice. And I might even just castle long myself. If my opponent takes, I take back, and it's unclear how my opponent punishes me for castling same side. So I'll go ahead and castle long here. Okay, pawn takes. Were I not castled, obviously I'd take with this pawn, but here I might even take with the knight, with the idea of knight to c3 check, exterminate that very strong bishop, maybe bishop back. There's some mating ideas. And I don't think there's any obvious counterplay. So let's take with the knight with this idea. All right, knight to c4. If we play check anyways, takes, should be totally fine. If we play this and our opponent moves out of the way, we take the queen, our opponent takes our queen. And are we just trapped at that point? Yeah, that seems to be the case. Okay, so we have to protect our queen right away. Let's do that with queen to a6. I know it seems a little bit passive given that the only scope that this queen has anymore is basically staring at a2. There are some ideas of like knight to b4, which could be interesting. Oh, and I've just realized I actually miscalculated that because I could have played knight to c3 check. If the king moves out of the way, there's just mate on a2. Okay, let's see, bishop takes. Let's go ahead and bother the bishop. I would be more than happy to sacrifice my rook for the bishop if my opponent defends it, but it's more likely that my opponent just returns, right? We get bishop back to b2. Let's play super aggressive. Let's play b5, boot the knight out, and return the queen to a5. I want to continue that attack that I let up on too early because of that little miscalculation. Okay, knight to e3 is almost definitely the critical move here, trying to get rid of this very strong knight that has a future on c3 with ideas of like b4, knight c3 takes, pawn protects b2, the queen could dive in for mate. So obviously I don't want to get rid of this knight, so I will actually back it up. So if we get this trade, I just kind of replace one knight with the other, and all of those ideas still stand on the board. Okay, d4. Can't play b4 anymore because I just dropped the queen. So let's play queen back to a5, kind of just going back to this knight to c3 idea. Ooh, pawn to c4 is very, very aggressive. Let's see. If I play check, takes, I don't actually win anything, but I do open up the position. If my opponent takes, I take back. Rook here loses us the queen, so that's usually not a great idea. So let's actually take first and then give that check. We might even have the kind of long maneuver of like, oh, okay, knight takes. I was going to say we'd have the long maneuver of like transferring over the rook, but knight takes instead. If I take, my opponent takes back. Kind of dilutes a lot of the attack. But I don't really have a choice here, so I'll go ahead and capture. Opponent does take back as expected, putting some pressure on this c6 pawn. Okay, let's go ahead and play king to d7. Just kind of defending the pawn. Maybe we can bring the rooks into battle. Queen to a6. Opponent offers a queen trade. Let's see. If I ignore it and play something like check, opponent takes, I take back. Queen takes with check. King moves back out of the way. Do I actually have any compensation for my sacrifice? Probably not. So I'll just take it to an endgame. That should be totally fine. Let's play this, start harassing these kind of, I don't know how to say it more nicely, messed up pawns, these kind of disconnected pawns. Okay, opponent goes in for the counterattack. If I take, there's rook to g7. So let's go ahead and double the rooks. If we do get a trade, I end up with that rook anyways, and then the other rook can't go to g1, obviously. Nice, we do get that trade. Back to g2, threatening the same pawn as before. And this is really interesting because my bishop is well placed, it can't be booted by any pawns, and my knight also can't be booted by any pawns. So unless my opponent wants to trade for one of these pieces, I should be in a pretty good spot. Bishop to d3 hits this pawn. If I take, my opponent takes, I take, h4. Whoops, not how the pawn moves. Rook to h3. Should be no way to defend that pawn, so I'll go ahead and take. I have 1 minute left. Opponent is trailing behind just a bit on that time. Ooh, rook to g1. I believe I should still take. Rook to g7, maybe I can just play king to e7. Okay, bishop takes, let's take on h3, hit the bishop. If rook to g7, king here, bishop here. Ooh, pins the pawn, could actually be an issue. Let's give a little intermediate check, just for funsies, just to say we did. And if we play king here, bishop here, still hits this pawn in a way that I really can't defend it. That's pretty interesting. Okay, let's try king to e7 anyways. If we get bishop here, actually, maybe I have this fork. If we get bishop here, I actually also have this fork. Okay, never mind. We should be totally fine. 30 seconds left, so I really can't spend too much time calculating rather. Rook has to move out of the way. We pick up the bishop. We are playing 5-0, so I don't have any delay, so I should probably have this move kind of ready to go. Opponent is closing in on time, so we'll be pretty similar in just a moment. Shouldn't be too difficult to take this home. We'll go ahead and pre-move the check. Nice, opponent officially has less time than us, and we should be able to put this away fairly neatly. Okay, nice, and we win game number 2. Let's go ahead and move on to round number 3. All right, round number 3. Wow, 1500 with 2 out of 2. It's pretty strong. I'll go ahead and pre-move d4. Get knight to f6, bishop to f4, nice. d5, possibly another Grunfeld. Oh no, we get c5, interesting. We'll play c3. Fortify my center, continue development. Queen to b6, critical line. Let's try knight to a3. Queen takes, there's ideas of knight to b5 with this check. And we'll see how my opponent decides to defend this. Ooh, knight to e4. Actually, this is the critical line. Obviously threatening checkmate on f2. Okay, I basically have to play bishop to e2 to defend that checkmate. If we do get this entire trade, maybe knight to d2, and then I can castle first, and hopefully the initiative will be enough to compensate for that pawn. Okay, knight takes. We'll go ahead and take back. Block with the knight. Obviously, if we block with the queen, we drop the rook. If my opponent takes, I might just ignore it and castle. If my opponent takes again, I'll take with the bishop. And we'll see if we can actually get any counterplay. Wow, e5, super strong move. Let's go ahead and move the bishop. Oh, wow, if I move the bishop back, I drop this pawn. This is a strong 1500. Okay, let's see. Rook to c1. Queen moves out of the way. I mean, it's worth a shot. Let's try rook to c1. Queen does move back. Now I can actually move back, takes, and I don't lose the pawn. In fact, I actually open up the semi-open file, which could be pretty good for me. Bishop to a3 hits the rook right away. What happens if I ignore it and I take? Opponent takes, I take, my opponent takes. Opponent has enough time to castle, so it doesn't really actually do anything. Let's try this. We'll hit the queen. Queen goes all the way back. Nice. Let's play rook to c2. Bishop to f5 hits the rook. Bishop, oh wow, bishop d3, e4, bishop back, d3, my whole position falls apart. Wow, interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and sack the rook. Then maybe we can take this pawn or take it like this. Let's see, which one's better? Probably taking this way. Just because it keeps the initiative, we're hitting this pawn. If my opponent takes, I take back, we're also hitting the bishop. And it gives us some actual counterplay. Wow, opponent completely ignores the pawn, castles right away. Okay, let's take with the knight and hit the bishop. We are down the exchange. Out of the gate. Maybe the very natural bishop back to defend the pawn. No, okay, queen defends the bishop and the pawn. Right, nice. Let's go ahead and play queen to a4. Hit the pawn, hit the bishop. See what our opponent comes up with. Bishop to c5 hits the knight. If I take, it just pins my knight to my queen, so it's probably not ideal. I mean, there might be some ideas of like rook here, bishop to b5, but then a6 actually removes the bishop and then loses the knight instead. So that's really not great. Let's go ahead and retreat the... Actually, I could trade. Opponent takes back. I take. My opponent takes. I take. And then I'm still down the exchange and I haven't found any counterplay. So I'm going to play the knight back. Move the bishop all the way to the back. And maybe I can find some kingside counterplay, keeping the bishop on the log diagonal. Maybe sliding the queen over, knight to g5. I mean, I need to find some sort of counterplay here. Because I'm not going to win if I simplify and enter an endgame. That's impossible. Okay, rook to c8, which defends the pawn. Let's go ahead and play knight to e5. I'm okay with this trade because it leaves me with the bishop pair, which could end up being pretty useful. Bishop to e4, maybe ideas of queen here. Well, that's protected. Okay, let's play bishop back. Rook to e8, sure. I mean, I guess let's at least loosely threaten checkmate, although f6 stops it straight away. Okay, let's play, okay, h3 has this kind of interesting idea. f5 is, well, actually f5 is possible. The queen defends g7. Wow, that's quite frustrating. Let's play h3 anyways, just to kind of ward off any back rank threats. Rook to e5. Wow, what an interesting defense. Maybe going for this? Let's play this. If f5, obviously I win the rook. If bishop to f5, then there's really nothing for me. Okay, let's play f3, boot the bishop, and then maybe f4 and boot the rook as well. Okay, cool. Bishop g6. I've kind of created a weakness here that I don't really want to deal with. What about e4? Opponent can't take because I take. So that could be worthwhile. e4, c5. Queen moves out of the way. Bishop hits the rook. I think it's worth trying at least. Okay, rook goes all the way back. So what about f4 now? Still can't take because I win the queen. If this, I can't take because I lose the bishop. Okay, so that doesn't work. Let's go ahead and play rook to d1. At least give this rook a function of some sort. We have 45 seconds left. Queen to b7. Let's play this. Kind of playing a little bit tricky, looking for the skewer. Okay, our opponent captures. Is it worth playing it? Probably. Let's play bishop to a6. Oh no, there's this check which gets out of it. Maybe bishop d4 though. c4, check. I mean, actually that doesn't do anything. Or rather, this is c5 anyways. We would take, our opponent takes back, and then we can just move the bishop back to f2, e3. Okay, opponent just moves the queen out of the way. We'll take the bishop, or rather the rook. Okay, rook takes back. That means we can take here. Queen defends it. And it seems we've made something of a comeback. Let's go ahead and centralize the queen. This will probably come down to a time scramble of some sort, right? Let's go ahead and defend the pawn. Maybe we can push e5, look for back rank tricks. Queen to d7. Let's play king to h1, just buying some time. Sure, let's play this. e5, nice, we're trying to go for the back rank. Ooh, e6, sure, I'll keep pushing. Offers a queen trade. I will decline by taking 18 seconds. Might need to focus up here just a bit. Sure. And we do get that checkmate. Wow, what a stressful game. That was the strongest 1500 I've played in forever. Okay, wow, we do win game number 3 right into game number 4. Let's go for it, why not? A 1900 rated player. Hopefully I fare a little bit better against the 1900 than I did against the 1500. If I want any chance of playing Benjamin Finegold himself. Okay, let's play d5. Take stakes, sure. Bishop d3, pretty typical Caro-Kann line. Let's play bishop g4 just to be a little bit annoying. Sure, knight c6. Standard development, this is probably 0-0 for both of us. Sure, e6, bishop d6. This might even simplify into an endgame relatively quickly. Okay, we do get that trade. And we get short castle. I'll follow suit. Rook to e1. I do like to play h6 to create this escape route nice and early. Okay, queen to b3 hits the pawn and unpins the knight. So there are ideas now of knight to e5. I could trade my bishop. And I think I will. I'll go ahead and trade off my bishop, then defend the pawn, maybe knight to d7 if we get knight to e5. I'm probably playing this a little bit too passively, but in my head, I'm playing it safely. So f4, if I play f6 and boot the knight, I create a weakness on e6, so that's really not favorable. I could just take, however, pawn takes back, reroute my queen. That might actually be interesting. I'm going to move my queen out of the way first, however. Okay, we do get that trade, sure. f5, if I take, my opponent is counting on the fact that my pawn structure will be so weak that giving up a pawn won't actually matter. So like if I take rook here, g6, maybe c4. I don't know, my opponent's gonna have to justify that. I am going to bite. Queen to c2, right away putting pressure on that f5 pawn. Let's go ahead and defend it with g6. Queen shuffles over, probably looking for queen to h4. So I will play queen to d8, looking for queen to g5 and also covering h4. Truth is, my opponent may very well be much better here after like king h1, rook g1, g4. I mean, it should be a very natural attack for my opponent to follow through on, but it has to be done precisely. Okay, rook to e3. My opponent elects to go for a rook lift instead. Let's go ahead and offer a rook trade, which surely my opponent will decline. And we'll play, let's see, if h5, bishop sack, queen takes. How do I defend h5? Probably impossible. If queen to g5 or g3, move my queen back, takes. I can't take because this pawn doesn't actually defend anything. It'd be pinned. It's a pretty scary attack. In fact, if I play king to g7, there's still this sacrifice. And actually, what I'll do is I'll probably just allow it and then play queen to g5, ignore the fact that the bishop is on f5, because if I take back, there's too many crazy ideas of getting checkmated very quickly. So, and that's one thing to keep in mind. When you accept a gambit, you accept a free pawn. Most of the time, if your opponent knows how to play it, you have to be willing to give it back at some point. So we get rook to f1. Let's go to play queen to f6, connect our rooks. Maybe we can double them in just a moment. Okay, rook to f3. My opponent's looking for takes, and then taking with the rook, crushing me on f7. What about rook to e4? That's kind of crazy. Takes, bunch of connected pawns. Let's give it a try. I mean, it's probably too crazy, but it's, in my opinion, better than sitting there and waiting to get steamrolled by your opponent's attack. Rook to f4, looking for takes. Let's go ahead and back it up with another rook. Maybe we can look for e3, e2, e1. That'd be spectacular. Ooh, g4. Pretty aggressive. Obviously looking to put pressure on this f5 pawn. If queen here to pin the pawn, it could be h4. Queen moves back, and then I lose this pawn anyways. Let's play e3 in the meantime, boot the queen. Queen to f3. That seems to just allow e2, so I will play it. Okay, rook to e1, putting a lot of pressure on this e2 pawn. What about queen here? If my opponent takes, loses the rook. Well, actually, h4 isn't possible anymore. This capture isn't possible either. Okay, that should be fine. Not sure I'm going to get this knight into the game, because anything like this would take absolutely forever to do. So, I'm not really sure what his role is other than to wait for the endgame to come. What about h5? A little bit more pressure on that pawn could be interesting. Down to a minute 34, I have about half as much time as my opponent has, which is really not great, but we'll make do. Ooh, we actually get h4. Okay, what happens if I take? Maybe my opponent takes, but then I just win the rook. Okay, I'm not really sure what the idea is. I will take a free pawn, though. Okay, rook does take. If I take, my opponent takes back. I take here. I have a whole bunch of pawns, which might be enough to justify playing this way. So I'll go ahead and take here. Nice. I'll actually take with this pawn. I don't want to give this rook any more scope than it already has. Queen to g2. Let's play knight. Oh, knight back loses this pawn, but then there's check. I win the rook. Sure. I'll move knight to e7. Rook moves all the way back. If I play g5, it's protected by the knight. Let's play g3. I'd rather put more pressure on my opponent's position with like threats of queen to h2 giving checkmate. Queen to h1 tries to avoid that idea. Let's play queen to g5. I'm not really interested in trading queens. Queen to f3. Sure. Queen back, I guess. I mean, I guess I can walk away with a draw. It's not really the end of the world. Oh, free queen. Holy smokes. Okay, I just need to not flag now. And then mate? Holy smokes. Oh, if I didn't, that's crazy. Wow. I have nothing to say. I really have no words. I'm just going to keep saying wow if I keep talking. Hold on, let's look at that real quick. Queen takes. I'm assuming that was a mouse slip and my opponent intended to play queen to g2. And as you can see, the eval bar says this is even. Yeah, sure. It says 0.5 for me. And if I really knew how to play with this kind of pawn structure in a knight, maybe I could squeeze something out of that. But for all intents and purposes, it's basically a draw. And then my opponent goes in with the crazy queen sack and then walks into mate as well. Okay, sure. With that, we win game number 4. We now have 4 out of 4 points. There are only 2 rounds left. Let's see if we get the pairing we want.
So I'm going to play I Really Want Checkmate. 2133. I prefer people with 3-digit ratings, but all right. Well, at least if he checkmates me, he lives up to his name.
Nice, we do get the pairing and we get the white pieces. We'll play d4. Wow, 2700 rated player. Oh man. Hold on, I'll have to check what my heart rate is at the end of this game. Right now it's about 80, because I am already excited. Let's play bishop to f4. We'll see what this GM's preferred rebuttal is. We'll play e3. So far it's symmetrical play. I'm more than happy to play symmetrically. That is not an issue for me. In fact, let's go into an endgame and play that instead. I'd be more than happy. That's so funny. Bishop d6. I wonder if, okay, I'm actually not watching the stream, so I don't know if he's sitting there dead serious or if he's laughing at the fact that he's playing symmetrically. If I take, my opponent takes. I'm just going to play bishop to g3. We'll see if we get bishop g6. Okay, no, we get castling instead, kind of inviting this crazy knight to e4 idea. So I'll play c3. There is an idea of knight to e5, then f4, bishop h4, and that could get pretty interesting pretty fast. Okay, we do get the trade. I'll take back, and I'm assuming the next move will prepare e5, right? Knight to c6 doesn't actually prepare e5 yet. Play knight to d2, controlling e4. Rook to e8 finally prepares e5. Let's play knight to e5 and try to give this GM some headaches. Okay, we do get the capture. If I take with the pawn, knight goes back. Typically, that's what you're supposed to do. You're typically not supposed to take with the bishop. If we do take with the bishop takes, it might actually be more even for us. It's difficult because I kind of close up the center. Let's take with the pawn because I know it's what you're supposed to do. And I could defend with the knight or I could defend with my own pawn. I'll defend with the knight with the idea that playing with the pawn just kind of blocks our own bishop in. And I expect this pawn to kind of disappear at some point. Like f6 takes, suddenly the bishop comes alive again. And I really don't want this f4 pawn or this e3 pawn kind of in my way. Okay, knight to c5. If I play queen to c2, there's knight to e4. Rather, queen to e2, sorry. a5. Okay, I'd be crazy to castle long and try to go for a kingside attack. So we're just going to castle short. Okay, a4, looking to create some weaknesses in my queen side. I'll play knight to d4, offer a trade. With any luck, we don't get this trade, but maybe there's like f4, f5 could be interesting. Let's give it a try. Let's play f4. At this point, I'm playing for a kingside attack. I want a rook lift. I want a crazy battle, and I want to remember this game. Okay, we get doubled pawns, but there's still ideas of f6, creates a weakness on e3. Queen to h5, g6, queen here. There's ideas of this. So let's give that a try. Queen to h5. Whoa, oh my goodness. Okay, rook to a6, craziest rook lift I've ever seen, bringing the rook over. If bishop here anyways, rook here, takes, actually wins me a pawn, so let's at least start that idea. Okay, queen d7. If I play here, just h6 boots the bishop, but it does create a little bit of a weakness. g4 doesn't work, it's protected too many times. If I play h3 to protect g4, rook to h6, queen to g5. Oh, and then knight to e4, and then I lose the queen, which is usually not a good idea. So let's stay away from that. Let's just play the queen back to e2. I don't want to run too low on time. I'd hate to lose to a time scramble. So maybe we'll bring the rook towards the center, find a better place for this bishop. We'll play b3, kind of ignoring the pawn. Knight to e4 puts pressure on this pawn. We'll defend it. Maybe there's like rook d1, c4, trying to take advantage of the queen. Ooh, bishop g5, super tempting, because my bishop has to be worse than that knight. So I will play bishop g5. Okay, we do get that trade. I have a bunch of weak pawns now, but maybe I can justify it. Rook to g6 hits the pawn. What about h4, trying to defend it? Okay, rook takes e5, just loses a pawn outright. c4, let's try to create some play for my rooks. Really, any play is better than no play, so we have to try something. Okay, I assume now I just pinned the pawn. c5 would be pretty annoying. Ooh, rook to d6, very interesting. Queen here, rook takes, queen takes. I mean, I think it's playable at least. almost definitely worse. But I just need to look for practical play of some kind. I just want to hold my own weight here. Okay. Ooh, pawn takes, threatening this fork. If I take pawn here, check, rook back, rook takes, pawn takes, and there's no way to defend both of those pieces at the same time. So let's go ahead and trade right away. Pawn takes back, defends this pawn with the queen. I guess let's put pressure on e3. Surely it'll be defended by the queen.
Yeah, I still have all 8 of my pawns.
Right, queen to e7. My worst nightmare. Let's play g4. Maybe I can get in this way. I mean, I'm just grasping at straws at this point. Okay, pawn takes, I'll take back. g6 creates an escape square for the king. I can't push this because obviously I just lose the queen. Okay, what on earth do I do now? Queen d4, centralize the queen. Whoops, not how it moves. Keep the pressure on that e3 pawn. Queen to e6, maybe looking for this. If I take, check here. I don't really know what the idea is there. Let's play rook to e2 with the idea we could defend with the rook if necessary. Down to a minute, rook to e4. Oh, that's pretty... Okay, so that was probably the idea, sure. Let's try this. And if we don't get mated, maybe we can like finagle a draw, which would be absolutely insane. Queen g4 check. Let's play this, hit the queen. Okay, check again, I move the king. Oh, king out of the way leads to this, takes. And then what, mate on g4? Ah, it's the only legal move though. Oh goodness, king to g3. And we get annihilated on the king side. All right, GG. That was a very, very fun game, even though we did get destroyed. All right, we are now 4 out of 5. This last game, we'll basically just play it to see if we can run away with second place. Although I'm very happy that I did get to play that game. My opponent walked away with 1 extra point of rating. Oh, goodness. In case anyone was wondering, if I did win that game, I would have got 15 rating points from that single game. That's the equivalent of beating 2 other opponents my rating. Or 3, potentially. All right, last round, round number 6, we get the black pieces against an 1800 rated opponent. Also 4 out of 5. So we'll probably have to win this if we want that second place. d4, sure, we enter a normal Caro-Kann. Knight to f6. Okay, right away challenging d5. I could take and try to leave this isolated pawn. Or I could play e6 and then just keep things symmetrical. I'm gonna play bishop to g4 first and then play e6. Okay, my opponent takes. I'm pretty sure there's a problem with this that I'm not supposed to be able to take back. Let's see, if I take with the queen, queen takes, knight c3, takes, knight c7. So I have to take with the knight, I'm pretty sure. Okay, bishop to e2, sure, we'll develop the knight. Knight to c3, let's play e6. Looking to develop the last bishop. Let's see, bishop to b4 is probably unnecessary. Takes, really doesn't accomplish much. So just bishop to e7 should be fine. We'll castle out of the way. And with any luck, we'll try to take advantage of this isolated pawn. Okay, queen to b7, takes, knight takes, queen takes on b7, I take, whoop, not how the knight moves. I take, my opponent takes back. Should be relatively easy to take advantage of. Let's start by taking. Sure, we'll take on d4. Unless I've walked into some sort of opening prep, this should just double my opponent's pieces. Or my opponent decides to return and just drops the pawn on d4. Ooh, oh, okay, check hits the king. I have to move back. And let's see, takes, rook d1, and then I actually give up the pawn anyways. Okay, so well played by my opponent. Rook to d1, if I castle, takes, my opponent takes. It's not the prettiest position in the world, but it should be okay at least. We'll take, rook takes, interesting. Let's play queen to b6. With the idea of putting some pressure on b2 if this bishop tries to develop. There might be rook to b5, move the queen back, bishop to f4. Kind of an ugly position, actually, now that I think about it. Probably shouldn't have accepted that pawn. Okay, we do get rook to b5. What about queen here? Takes. I lose this pawn. Knight to c2, rook to b1. I don't know that I get any valuable counterplay. If I play back, though, bishop here, block, takes. Rook takes. Looks equally mediocre. Maybe knight to e5. Doesn't look great, though. We'll go ahead and play queen to d4, since I believe it's our best shot at counterplay. Because we have some loose ideas of like takes. Oh, opponent ignores it completely. Looking for rook takes. What about knight to e5? Rook takes, I take. Actually, queen probably would take. Let's go with that. Try to get rid of one of the bishops. At least my opponent wouldn't have the bishop pair at that point. If bishop takes, oh no, my rook. And then we go for checkmate. That would be pretty funny. I don't think it's gonna work, but let's give it a try just to say we did. Okay, bishop to e3 right away stops the threat. Oh, and it hits the queen and the... Ooh, okay, terrible situation. Let's see. Is there any way to justify this at all? Queen back, bishop takes, queen takes. At least we stop this. Looks like the only move, so we'll give it a go. Really, my only shot here is some crazy knight to f3 tactic and then like swooping in somehow. Okay, bishop does take. We'll go ahead and take back. Rook to d1 hits the queen. I have no choice but to move to c7 to continue to defend the square. Even just bishop here is probably crushing. Bishop f6. We hold on to the knight, but only barely. Ooh, rook to b7. Queen back. Loses the bishop. Wow, we might already be toast. Okay, let's give... queen to c4 doesn't even work. Okay, I'm just going to play queen to c6 and forfeit the bishop. Maybe there's like queen here, trying to go for knight to f3. Truth is, I'm just playing for tricks at that point. 21 seconds left on the clock. This isn't looking too good for me anyways. Okay, we do get that capture. Oh, wait, and I hang the knight. Oh my goodness. Okay, probably shouldn't have decided to record this tournament. I am playing like a beginner. Wow, queen to d5 doesn't even take it. But I have no choice but to defend the rook. Loses the knight anyways. Sure, let's play this. Beautiful checkmate. Nice. And with that, we actually lose our last game. I really think I only survived the first 4 rounds because I was playing off of the adrenaline, but it is 11 p.m. where I am, so I am a little bit not on this plane right now. We do lose the last game. Let's go ahead and see how the other games are doing. All right, and with that, the tournament concludes. By tiebreak, we end up tied for 3rd, but not actually on the board. Our tiebreak was exactly half a point weaker, 20 versus 20.5, than the individual that actually got 3rd place. So we walk away with an honorary 4th place finish. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know if I should find more GMs that I can play, and I will see you guys in the next one.